So we'll introduce our illustrious field day chairman, Scott, and he'll fill in all the details.
Thank you.
Lights dim. Scott, you want the lights down?
Okay. As she was talking, I was thinking back to my first days at ham radio, and when I was a technician going to seminary in Fort Worth, get on the 2-meter radio and talk to a lady who lived in Dallas on the 146.82 repeater named Tiger. She was always there on the radio, and I found out years later she was blind, and this was her world, and I was able to be a part of it, and I really enjoyed that. So, that's one of those chill bump moments for me about ham radio, and it was just talking on a 2-meter repeater. It didn't involve going to faraway places, but it did involve sharing in somebody else's life. And that kind of segues into what we're talking about tonight. Field Day. The theme for this year's Field Day is family reunion. Now, everybody, I'm hoping, has been to a wedding, not their own, at some point in their life, correct? And everybody has probably been to a funeral, not their own, at some point in their life. Both of those sad, solemn occasions bring together family from disparate locations for a common reason. And that's what Field Day should be for us, the family of Norfolk Amateur Radio League. So go ahead and move on to the next slide. If you were here last year, you probably saw this. I will not bore those of you who are in the choir and tired of hearing the sermon, but we do want you to know, whoever you are, we want you at Field Day. Whatever the obstacles you have to overcome, we would be grateful for your appearance. If you've been a licensed ham longer than I've been alive, and there are those in the room that fit that description, if you've been a licensed ham for a very short time, if you want to become licensed, if you have a wife, a child, a neighbor, a friend, a coworker in the office who has kind of stopped by and listened at the cubicle as you've talked about the contest you're in this past weekend, here is a chance for him to get a hands-on, up-in-your-face exposure to ham radio, talking to folks all over North America and the North American continent. So, go ahead and move on to the next one. Go ahead and just kind of flow through this one here. As we all know, it's great fun. The memories of what ham radio is in your mind and in your heart, hopefully some of those come from Field Day. I can remember 2008 getting exposed to this crazy new digital mode called PSK31. And from then I learned about RIDI, and then we had our ham jam a few years ago, and I found out this new mode called JT65. And since then I've worked all 50 states on JT65, not just once, but on 80 meters and 40 meters, and I've got 42 confirmed. All because of a Field Day where I got exposed to the digital mode of operating. And that and the fact that nobody else would do it, I'm the digital captain this year. So I want you to get the virus that I got. So come over and help me out at the digital station. It is an operating event where a score is kept. It is not a contest. But we will keep score. And we will do our best to contact as many different stations across Canada, United States, the Pacific, and the Caribbean who are participating in this event. It's an exercise, I love using funny and big words, an exercise in itinerant emergency operations similar to disaster activation. I mean, if you've been to one before, you know. If you haven't been to one before, you will find out. You start off with a blank parking lot, and you fill it up with people and antennas and tents and radios and food. And it doesn't matter if it's been a tornado, a flood, a snowstorm. It could be a lost child. Setting up and operating an itinerant station is a critical skill that we need to be able to do proficiently. So we get a chance to practice that. Of course, everything is temporary to the site. Next. Waller Park Extension is where we're going to have it. This is where we've had it for the last many years. It's a fabulous facility. I cannot say enough about how wonderful the City of Roswell's Recreation and Parks Department. And make sure that if you take anything away from here tonight, you remember it's not Parks and Rec, it's Recreation and Parks. Why? Because people are more important than places. So the Recreation and Parks people have been wonderful to us. If you guys have a GPS, here's your latitude, longitude, go ahead to the next. We always have motor coach parking available. We do not have potable water. We don't have dumping facilities next. Unfortunately this year, in spite of all the rain, we do not have water slips available. And due to imminent soccer field upgrades, our rotary wing aircraft parking probably is going away. So sorry about that, but anyway. If you want to fly in for the event, let me know. We'll find some place and bring a shuttle over to get you. Here is the big broad map. Georgia 400, Holcomb Bridge Road, Highway 9, Norcross Street. This is the infamous, you guys have them all over Connecticut, roundabouts. This is the Roswell roundabout, right here at Norcross Street and Grimes Bridge Road. So, if you get to the roundabout, you're almost there. If you get down Alpharetta Highway, right about here, where this 120 is, that's the Krispy Kreme. If you can find either of those two places, you're almost there. You're going to come down to Oxbow Road, and then right here you're going to take a left. You'll have signs out that will point you to go to Waller Park. Next slide. Now, that rotary wing aircraft I was telling you about, this is probably what you'd see, although this was actually taken from a Google satellite. Here's your road coming in. We'll be set up out here in the parking lot, and we'll have antennas out here and out here. This is our pavilion, and this is the playground for all the kiddos. Bring your children, although we do ask that you keep an eye on them. Any unattended children will be fed copious amounts of candy and coffee. And if we're really, really excited about your children, we may give them a puppy. So, but we want them to have a great time on the playground. All right, so there's our facility. Let's move on to the next slide. Obviously, it's this weekend, always the fourth weekend. This is one of those unique years where we have 5 weekends in June. And I'm tempted to go up to Waller Park Extension next weekend and see how many people show up looking for field day on the 28th or 29th and 30th. All right, we're going to start setting up on Friday. This year the rules have changed. We can start setting up at midnight UTC Friday, which for those of us on the East Coast is 8 o'clock Thursday night. But we're not that hale and hearty. We're going to wait and start at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Try and get all our antennas up in the air. If we can get all that done, we'll be so far ahead of the game. Move on, please. Thank you. Our schedule, 7 a.m., meet at Waller Park Extension. We're going to get our registration center set up and get what we didn't get of the antennas up. I'm not going to read every line on this screen because, Mary, that's probably why you don't do PowerPoint. But you can read it. The things I want to point out to you, we do have a radio merit badge. It starts at 8 o'clock, or registration starts at 8 o'clock. It starts at 9. They are going to, at the end of their class, make a contact on one of our stations as part of the requirements for their merit badge. So we're hoping that we can have all of our stations up and running. They'll each get on the radio and make a voice contact with someone that will be able to pull off the air. Probably somebody who's trying to camp out on a frequency and get ready for running when the contest starts. But in any event, and then at lunch for the setup crew at noon, 2 o'clock we drop the green flag and we go like gangbusters. At 6 o'clock we're going to have dinner. I'll talk about that later next. Overnight, we will be operating, even if you think you need sleep, you really don't. Sleep is a poor excuse for caffeine. Thank you, Fred. I love that line. Sunday, 6 a.m., we will have breakfast for our overnight operators. At 12 o'clock, we'll clean out the coolers and have cold cuts. We'll start tearing down. Do need to give a heads up to those of you who will be there. And please, if you're available to come after church on Sunday to help us tear down, we would love to have you. That would help us get out of there quickly. They do have a softball game scheduled on the CW antenna field. Evidently, this tournament mushroomed and exceeded the capacity of wherever they're having it. And they called, sent me an email and begged me if I would relent and let them use the field at 3 o'clock. I said, you've been so good to us, we will be glad to help you. So 3 o'clock, we need to make sure that we've got all our antennas out of the CW field. We have our last sweep and we're off, and then we start planning for next year, FD14. All right. We will have drinks and snacks available. We want you to stay hydrated so that we don't have anybody passing out. Dinner on Saturday night. Let me go back to our family reunion thought. At 6 o'clock, we're going to have dinner. We're going to have barbecue from Spice Right, hamburgers, hot dogs, grilled on site. Club members are asked to bring salads, side dishes, desserts. I'll get on to more of that later. Move on next. This is the important slide, and I'm sorry that logo I threw that in late. We really don't want to guess who's coming to dinner. I kind of ruined the line by covering it up. Before you put your sweet little head on your soft little comfy pillow tonight, I would like for you to send an email with your name, the number of people you will have at the dinner, and what you are bringing to the email address that will be on the next page. fdfood@nfarl.org. I tried to make sure it was easy enough to remember because none of you brought notepads to write it down, and I don't want you to scratch it into your arm. fdfood@nfarl.org. We would love for you to RSVP. We politely request that you RSVP. So we'll move on. All right. Sorry to be the breaker of the bad news, but we do have some rules. Rule number 1, we want you to have fun. We want you to enjoy yourself. We want you to make memories. We want you to be able to tell the folks on Monday when you go to the office, man, it was so much fun being out there with all those guys and girls at the field day. Man, I got to talk on the radio to a guy in Cheyenne, Wyoming, or in Smoke Jack, Utah, or Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. We want you to have a great time. Next. But there's a corollary, rule number 1A. Make sure everyone around you is having fun as well. So, that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, be safe. Next. Go ahead. My slides got a little longer. Use common sense. If you don't have enough common sense, borrow some from somebody who has more than they need. If you don't know, the answer is no until you find out. Okay? All right. Now, that is most important when we're talking about operating in inclement weather. Because like gravity, it's not just a good idea, it's the law. Inclement weather is inclement weather when the safety captain says it's inclement weather, and it will be inclement weather until he says it isn't. And because he's going to be looking skyward most of the time, our satellite captain, Dr. John, K4SQC, is going to be our safety captain. He will declare it is safe to operate or not safe to operate. So, if there's any question, the answer is no until you ask. All right. We will have Aries on site. I'm really thrilled about this. They didn't make it last year, but this year they're going to be out like gangbusters. Go ahead and toggle to this one. They have their own setup. We were talking about CERT earlier. The Sandy Springs CERT has an inflatable building that they can set up as a portable operations and command center. They're going to be bringing that out and setting it up next. And they're going to bring along some friends of theirs from Mars. Not the planet, the military-affiliated radio service. These guys will have static displays and demonstrations. Go ahead. They'll also be handling all of our NTS traffic. We're going to send an NTS traffic message to N1, make more money? More money, honey. We're going to send an NTS traffic to her. Thank her for coming tonight. They're also going to be doing the backup copy of the Abel Burrell Special Message Bulletin. This is always a challenge for us because they don't put it out till like Friday night and everybody's so worried about the next day they forget about the bulletin. However, I will personally give a Starbucks gift card to not just the first person, but the first 3 people who deliver to me via an email or in my hot little hands a piece of paper that has the complete bulletin on it. All right? Have you been incentivized enough? All right. All right. So let me walk through the stations we'll have set up. You've already saw this earlier, so we'll just kind of fly through these. We'll have 2 voice stations operating on HF. We'll have a finger wiggling station. We will have a digital station. Man, this guy, this captain of this station, he's something else. Y'all need to get to know him. 6-meter station. Last year we didn't have a 6-meter station because of, I won't get into the reasons, but they involve lack of interest. This year we're going to have a crackerjack 6-meter station with a crackerjack captain. 2 of them, in fact. I think they kind of battled it out to see who would be the captain, who would be the co-captain. But and we've got the RFD, Roswell Fire Department, Fire Education Safety Trailer for us this year. It is a much improved step up from that. I won't go into it about what Alfreda brought to us for 2 years in a row, promising it was repaired after it wouldn't work the first year. Anyway, so we'll have a nice place to operate from there.
Milton.
Milton, not Alpharetta.
I apologize to all the residents of Alpharetta. It was the Milton trailer.
Thank you.
All right. Our satellite station, John will have his things set up. If you've been and seen the satellite antennas in years past, and they were kind of neat and cool, but you know, never be satisfied with good enough. So this year, all of our satellite antennas are going to be on a tower, so that you can't miss seeing them when they start doing their azimuth elevation and rotation. So we're going to have, and this year we're going to see if we can't recruit some of you CW aficionados to work CW on satellite. Now, here's where it gets to be fun. There's this little thing called Doppler shift, which means as that satellite is racing across the sky at however many thousands of miles an hour, as it gets farther away, as you all know, because you've got amateur radio licenses and you understand this kind of stuff, there's a Doppler shift thing that occurs and the pitch changes. And so you've got to chase it. So you're wiggling your fingers with one hand and turning a knob with another hand to try and zero beat it, because you're actually listening to your signal on another receiver. Anyway, I can't do it justice. You got to be there to see it. And we're not just, I mean, you can do so much more and so much faster with CW. So we're going to try CW this year on our satellite station. So those of you who think you're really good with CW, we're going to put you to the test. See John and sign up for your window. To get on the air station, Bill's talked about that before. Look at your original license if you think you can find it in the sock drawer or the oh shucks drawer or whatever you call it around your house. If it was issued after June 23rd, it's probably framed on the wall. That's where it ought to be. Issued after June 23rd, 2012, you are eligible to operate. So we would like for you to operate. Let me just make sure. I'm looking through my notes here. All right, so bring your kids, your grandkids, your neighbor's kids. Get permission first before you take the neighbor's kids. We do not want any police reports written. All right. But we do want you to be there. Let them experience the thrill of ham radio. Our radio merit badge, we talked about it earlier. We're going to have probably 24 or so scouts with us. What a great opportunity. The next generation of ham radio operators will be wearing khaki with these little bandanas and slides on Saturday morning. You hear me, folks? That's where they're coming from. You know, they're not going to be coming from the video game arcade. They're not going to be coming from the skateboard park. Well, maybe they will be. But these guys, they're going to be, they're there because they want to learn about ham radio and communications and get a merit badge. And yeah, getting the merit badge is probably the bigger thing than learning about the radio. But along the way, they're going to get exposed, and maybe they'll get infected. And maybe we can get some of them into our ranks. So if you're there mulling around and make sure they feel like this is something that they need to get involved with. And by the way, and I've resisted for too long, and I apologize if I offend some of my friends, but I bought a Baofeng dual band radio off Amazon this week. Radio, battery, charger, handheld mic, adapter to use on my outside antenna of my car, under $75. I'm telling you folks, the entry point for getting into radio has just hit the bottom. I mean, the radio itself is $35. So there's no more of this, man, I can't afford to get into ham radio anymore. So, move on. These guys, we can get them in and we can get them on the air with very little money on 2-meter radios and get them infected so they move on to HF and advance their licenses. We got to get them in before they discover the perfume. Because once they find the perfume, it's over. All right, there are 2 rules. Please follow them. Next. Bring sunscreen, deodorant, and insect repellent. If you see someone or are aware of someone who needs one of these 3, please be kind and share. There's a story about a guy who was on an elevator going up to the top of a very tall office building, and the odor in the elevator got to be unbearable, and finally some woman leaned over to the fella and said, you know, somebody's deodorant just isn't working today. He looked at her and said, ma'am, it ain't me. I'm not wearing any. All right, wear comfortable clothes. It will be hot during the day. Cover your head. Don't let your ears get burned. Those of you who don't have the benefit of hair, make sure you don't burn your scalp. Wear a hat. It will get cool overnight, and if we get an afternoon thunderstorm, which I'm praying we don't. Anybody knows any good shamans? I know they call on the Native Americans to do rain dances. Can we get one to do a no rain dance for us? I'm hoping that all the rain that we're getting these days will dry out the skies and we'll have a good weekend. We will have talk in on the 145/47 Sweat Mountain repeater. So if you can get to the roundabout or you can get to the Krispy Kreme, dial in the 145/47 repeater and they'll get you the rest of the way there. We need you. Everybody stand up for just a moment. Stand up on your feet. We're going to take a quick oath. Yeah, this isn't a real oath, so you can raise your left hand. I state your name.
I state your name.
Am good most of the time.
I'm good most of the time.
And so I qualify to be
And so I qualify to be
a good old boy.
a good old boy.
Congratulations, you're now part of the Good Old Boy Network. I do not want anybody to say, it's only the good old boys who do this kind of stuff. I never get invited, I never get to do anything because I'm not a good old boy. You can may be seated, thank you. You may be seated. You are now a good old boy. You're not an old geezer, but you're a good old boy, and that's good enough for me. All right, I need a bunch of good old boys to take care of all the stuff that has to be taken care of on field day. We got plenty of operating slots. All right, not just the good old boys get to operate. Everybody gets to operate. And now that you're a good old boy, well, maybe do all the good old boys get to operate. But you're a good old boy too now. All right, you're part of it. Please RSVP for the picnic tonight and help out with other opportunities at field day. We're going to need somebody to help put the signs out so that the wayward wanderers can find their way. We'll have those signs at the field. We'll put the little City of Roswell stickers on them so they're legal. And we'll give you a map and show you where to put them out. There's going to be lots of other things. We need to kind of keep the parents occupied while they're waiting for their Boy Scouts to get out of their meeting. You can talk to them about how much fun ham radio is. You can show them around as things are being set up. There will be some setup to be done, and we could use your help with that. I haven't talked a great deal about Lynn Kahn. You know, there's a special place in heaven for this woman who has taken care of our field day food needs for the last 3 or 5 years. This year, I haven't had to talk to her. I've just sent her an email and said, Lynn, go do that voodoo that you do so well. Tell Fred how much money you need, go buy what you want, and put on the feast like you did last year, and I have every confidence she will. But she may need a few extra hands, you know. Ian and Steve are already committed, but she could probably use some extra help as well. So just look for opportunities to help out and be involved. Again, tell your friends and neighbors, your co-workers, bring everyone you can, come out and support your club. Come out and make a memory at our family reunion. Sit down and talk to somebody who is probably a couple years older than you and ask them, tell me how your introduction to amateur radio occurred. Or find some young whippersnapper who's a lot of years younger than you, probably a little easier than the other, and say, what was it that drew you into the hobby? Or what is it about the hobby that you would like to learn about that you don't know about? Maybe he tells you about something you have no clue about. Now there are 2 of you who can go and find out together. That's what Elmering's all about, is helping develop them along the way. And it's about sharing with those who have gone before, sharing with those who are coming behind, so that those who are yet to come appreciate how they got to where we are. All right. I'm going to run through this real quick. 11 reasons you need to be at field day. If you've been following along, we've gone through the 5 W's of journalism, and this is W number 5. Number 11, we're going to have the best throwdown you've ever had. That's a southern term. You probably don't use throwdown. You say wicked awesome. We're going to have a wicked awesome picnic. Y'all come. It's fun for the entire family. We've got the playground. We got opportunities for kids to work on the go-to station. You know, I know they're probably saying, Daddy, 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 I want my turn. Can I talk on the radio? Here it is, guys. Wear them out on the go-to station. They love to play on the playground. It's right there by the picnic pavilion, so you keep an eye on them, keep them safe, and keep them from getting a puppy. You can practice your Aerie skills. Talk to the guys from Norfolk Aries, from Mars, and from the Sandy Springs CERT team. Learn about what they're doing and learn how you can become involved. Number 7, you can learn about this term radio sport, which is really sort of a cool term that's been invented and coined over the last few years. It describes contesting. Now remember, this is not a contest. This is an operating event where a score is kept. But remember, radio sport, that's a cool term. Number 6, you can work a new mode. I'm going to be doing a lot of RIDI. I'll probably try and sneak in and do some PSK. Probably won't get to do any JT65, which is really, like I said, my passion. But satellites. Satellite with CW. CW itself. HF. You know, as wonderful as my little Balphone radio is, I can't talk to somebody in Cleveland, Georgia, much less Cleveland, Ohio, on my little Balphone simplex.
You can.
Sure you can.
Simplex?
Yeah.
All right. Well, with HF, it's so much more fun. All right. Yes, if you are a technician, you can get on HF. We'll have plenty of control operators. Mary, one statistic about this club that although we bring in a lot of youth, we don't let them stay technicians very long. 50% of our membership, and you correct me if I'm wrong, statisticians, extra class. But they're not as old as Neil.
Nobody's as old as Neil.
No one is.
We have a lot of extras who are just now learning to drive. So, I mean, that's a wonderful statistic about our club. But if you're still working towards getting to your extra, here's a chance to work in bands that are above your license class. We love to have a big crowd. I mean, yeah, we want all the world to come out and see what we're doing. This year, it's about us. I want us to have a big turnout of us, the North Fulton Amateur Radio League family. So we want y'all to show up. We want us to have a big time together. Number 3, this is a chance. Those little guys from the Boy Scouts, we may even have some Girl Scouts show up with some interest. There'll be other youths running around. Help them get on the air. If the go-to station is tied up and you see one wandering over to your 20-meter or 40-meter station when it's your time to operate, or if they come by my digital station, you can sure bet I'm going to snag them, sit them down, because there's nothing a kid likes to do more than stare at a screen, right? So we're going to help them get on the air and make some contacts. Number 2, yes, not just the kids, but even the young at heart. We want to get everybody that we can, family members, children, neighbors, co-workers, introduced to this wonderful hobby of ours. And I love the 3 terms of relevant and unique, relevant, and essential. You know, I've never gone to a ship in a bottle building club meeting, but I don't imagine there are a lot of help when tornadoes come through. I've never been to a stamp collectors club meeting, and if y'all are stamp collectors, I don't mean any offense by it, but that's not who they're going to call when the 911 center goes down. Ham radio, when all else fails, ham radio. And the number 1 reason we want you to attend field day, I've talked about it all night long: camaraderie, family, friendship, collegial atmosphere. Folks, that's what field day is all about. It's about making memories, having fun, getting to operate the radios with your buddies. You know, going back to this term radio sport, the most fun I ever had in my entire life with radio was visiting the NR5M superstation outside of Houston, where he's got 5 HF radios down this side, 5 HF radios down this side, and when he sits down to work a contest, he's got 2 operators at each one operator at each radio for each band, and he's going gangbusters. Team operation, like you experienced at PJ2T. You know, holding up in the basement or up in the attic or out in the garage and operating your ham radio by yourself and talking to old Joe off in as my chauffeur likes to say, disembodied voices on another planet. Now, there's some cool to that, but when you can elbow the guy next to you and say, this guy's in Hawaii and I'm working him and he's hearing me, that's cool. And now you're sharing that excitement with this guy who's right beside you. Camaraderie and lots of fun. All right, this was my last slide last year, but this year I wanted to make things a little different, so I have one more slide. So you don't forget, before midnight tonight, please RSVP. That, friends, is my show, and I thank you for tolerating it. Let me see if I missed anything on my list. I do want to make sure that we all get a chance to see Brian N9XO at Field Day. Thank him for his wonderful, wonderful contribution to the club that makes it really a wonderful event. Claire is such a wonderful, wonderful part of our club, as our mascot. But besides Claire, he brings the 15 kW generator that powers all the radio stations. So, NX90, sorry Brian. So, guys, girls, family, friends, this is the invitation at the sermon, at the end of the sermon. I'm not going to ask you to come forward. I'm going to ask you to go out and make sure that when you come out to field day this weekend, you bring your wife, you bring your children, you bring your dog, well, on a leash, and if they're well behaved, and if they take care of their business in the proper way. Bring your coworker. If they've shown even the most slight modicum of interest in ham radio, here's your chance. I mean, you don't have to bring them into your shack full of papers and radios and wires and cords that just looks like a mess. Bring them out to field day and let them see that you're not the only one who's crazy. There's a whole club full of them. All right. Thank y'all. Any questions before I turn the mic over? And Ian.
A comment, not a question. I posted this on the Reflector last week. As you're searching for the insect repellents that Scott reminded us all we need to bring, make sure your insect repellent is DEET-free. Part of the chemical makeup of DEET is such that it will eat the plastic on our radios. So please use DEET-free repellent.
DEET.
D-E-E-T.
If it doesn't have it in it, they'll be proud of the fact and
Yeah.
they'll brag about it.
Yes.
So if you look on the can and it doesn't say DEET-free, it probably isn't.
Yeah.
The answer is no unless you ask.
And there are many good ones out there. So just
Wait a minute.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, comment. Every year, we get out there and at dinner, there's no place to sit,
Okay.
okay? We all need to bring folding chairs and camp chairs and all that. People are sitting on the ground and that doesn't
Okay.
go well.
Yes, sir.
I have it small now, so back there by the door, half a dozen free, count 'em, free styrofoam coolers. Take the night and bring them back on field day filled with your favorite non-alcoholic beverage.
There you go. So there's some coolers back there. If you want to throw a couple of packs of your red and white ribbon or your
We're good.
red, white, and blue cans of the stuff they make in Dallas, Texas. I'm not allowed to say it because I'm in Atlanta. But some of you are traders in imports and implants. And so,
that carbonated beverage company that has a small facility on North Avenue is what we
yes,
prefer.
you can bring 2 6-packs from them and 1 from the other, and we'll all be all right. So there are the coolers, and we will look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Scott. And we're looking forward to see you all on field day. One thing that I forgot to say earlier, in terms of radio sport, please remember that about the time we get done with field day, 13 Colonies comes along. And we've got a fair number of operators who are participating. If you've never done it, it's a lot of fun, and that's to try to work the 13 original colonies. Jim QO is our kind of coordinator and head honcho of that. Watch your email, watch the Reflector, and there'll be some more information on it.